us today. Kindly take your seat as you are right now, as the program is about to begin. We also wish to remind everyone to switch off your mobile phone or put it on the silent mode. Thank you.
Kongres Ekonomi Bumi Putra KEB 2024 yang akan berlangsung mulai 29 Februari ini
dan menjamin keselesaan hidup Bumi Putra dengan peluang tambahan itu juga menjadi agenda jelas.
Usaha kerajaan memperkasa Bumi Putra tidak sesekali menyebabkan mana-mana kaum lain di negara ini terpinggir. Dengan pelaksanaan transformasi ekonomi Bumi Putra ini, hak pelbagai kaum.
Itulah objektif MARA daripada awal penubuhan, untuk memastikan lebih ramai anak-anak Melayu menyertai, berpartisipasi dalam pelbagai sektor-sektor.
59 tahun, MARA terus menjadi tulang belakang pembangunan Bumi Putra. Menyediakan pendidikan berkualiti dan kondusif. Membimbing usahawan mengembangkan perniagaan bagi terus meningkatkan sosioekonomi Bumi Putra. Namun, kita hanyalah penerus perjuangan panjang pemimpin yang membela nasib bangsa daripada terpinggir bagi membantu membangkitkan taraf ekonomi masyarakat Bumiputra di luar bandar supaya mampu bersaing dan membangunkan ekonomi negara bersama. Keringat ini akhirnya melahirkan Majlis Amanah Rakyat MARA pada 1 Mac 1966. Kini, Kerajaan Madani terus menjunjung tinggi perlembagaan dan meneruskan perjuangan pemimpin terdahulu. Genap setahun, Kongres Ekonomi Bumiputra 2024 kini pelbagai kejayaan terus dilakar MARA untuk membangun Bumiputra. Melahirkan profesional berkualiti, membentuk tenaga kerja TVET berkemahiran tinggi, peluang pendidikan di universiti terbaik dunia, mengharumkan nama negara, memperluas industri halal Bumiputra, meningkatkan usahawan profesional, membimbing usahawan berkembang, mengekspor produk Bumiputra ke peringkat antarabangsa. Jutaan telah menerima manfaat dan berjaya meningkatkan taraf hidup.
Geran peluncuran 100 juta ringgit dengan maksud dalam tempoh 2 tahun terkumpul minimal 1 bilion ringgit.
Namun, ramai yang masih perlu dibimbing dan disantuni bagi menikmati tuah di negara ini membentuk sebuah negara madani.
Kejutan wakaf kesihatan dan pendidikan putra yang akan menjamin perkhidmatan kesihatan dan pendidikan yang berterusan kepada putra.
Kini, MARA menyasarkan 1 bilion kutipan wakaf bagi dijana dan menjadi hasil mampan bagi terus membangun ekonomi masyarakat luar bandar dan Bumiputra. Hari ini, kita semua mampu untuk sama-sama membangun ekonomi Bumiputra. Ayo, mula berwakaf hari ini.
Announcing the arrival of Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar, the former minister and past chairman of Bursa Malaysia, accompanied by other distinguished guests. Members of the floor, please rise. Kindly remain standing for the singing of Negaraku, Amanah Rakyat and Nakhoda Kemajuan song.
demi satu keunggulan bangsa yang berdaulat, sebuah lambang penawan puncak jaya, perkasa di persada dunia. Oh, para cendekia merentas masa hadapan. Usahawan jaya pencipta bahagia, maju mara maju jaya. Mara perkasa menjunjung amanah rakyat, memayungi bangsa dan negara. Semangat merintis penuh yakin demi satu amanah mulia. Mara perkasa menjunjung amanah rakyat, memayungi bangsa dan negara. Penuh keyakinan demi satu amanah mulia. Universiti Kuala Lumpur, maju tanda kejayaan Mara, nahoda kemajuan siswa-siswi mahir inovatif berdikari. Universiti Kuala Lumpur, pusat ilmuwan teknikal kita, nahoda kemajuan teknologi di lautan, di daratan, dan di langit tinggi. Universiti Kuala Lumpur, pelopor teknologi terkini, nahoda kemajuan negara kita, unggul di mata dunia. Universiti Kuala Lumpur, pusat ilmuwan teknikal kita, nahoda kemajuan teknologi di lautan, di daratan, dan di langit tinggi. Universiti Kuala Lumpur, pelopor teknologi terkini, nahoda kemajuan negara kita, unggul di mata dunia. Nahoda kemajuan negara kita, unggul di mata dunia. Universiti Kuala
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may now be seated. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berbahagia, Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar, the former minister and past chairman of Bursa Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Professor Insinyur Dr. Azmi bin Hassan, the deputy president of International, Industrial and Institutional Partnership (IIP) of University Kuala Lumpur. Yang berusaha, Encik Muhammad Arif Majmi bin Zabbar, the covering chief corporate planning officer of University Kuala Lumpur. Yang Berusaha, Professor Dr. Naziruddin bin Abdullah, the Dean of University Kuala Lumpur Business School. Yang Berusaha, Associate Professor Technologist Dr. Mat Redzwan bin Zulfakar, the Director, Centre for Industrial Linkages of University Kuala Lumpur, management members, academicians, students of University Kuala Lumpur Business School, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Welcome to the Inspiration Talk series by University Kuala Lumpur Business School, a trip and treat in the journey to excellence by Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar, the former minister and past chairman of Bursa Malaysia. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank our guest of honor, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri, and all esteemed guests for being with us here today. We would also like to welcome all students of University Kuala Lumpur Business School to this Inspiration Talk series. Ladies and gentlemen, to start our auspicious ceremony, I would like to call upon Saudara Muhammad Sohail Azmin bin Shahrin, student year 2 of the program Management and Entrepreneurship from University Kuala Lumpur Business School, to lead the Doa recitation. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We begin our dua with Kitab Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. Allahumma inna nas'aluka khaira hadza majlis wa khaira ma fihi, wa na'udzubika min syarri hadza majlis wa syarri ma fihi. Ya arhamar rahimin. Ya Allah, Ya Karim, Ya Wadud. O Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. All praise to Allah, the Almighty. May peace and mercy of Allah be upon His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, companions, and followers. We thank you, Allah, for allowing us to be here today attending the Inspiration Talk series, University Kuala Lumpur Business School, a trip and treat in the journey to excellence by Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar, former ministers and past chairman of Bursa Malaysia. Ya Allah, in conjunction with this program, we ask for your aids and guidance. Grant us true happiness and health to our body and soul. To make the following of your command easy for us, we seek your mercy to keep open and expand our heart to receive the good and welfare from you. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin, 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 ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you very much, Saudara Muhammad Sohail. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to proceed with the agenda for today, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Insinyur Dr. Azmi bin Hassan, the Deputy President of Triple IP, University Kuala Lumpur, to deliver his welcoming speech. Please welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Lara, the MC for this afternoon. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar, the former minister and the past chairman of Bursa Malaysia. Yang berusaha Encik Muhammad Arif Majbi bin Zaba, Chief Covering Corporate Planning Officer. Yang berusaha Profesor Dr. Naziruddin Abdullah, the Dean UniKL Business School. Yang berusaha Associate Professor TS Dr. Mat Ridwan bin Zulfakar, the Director Centre for Industrial Linkages UniKL, management members, fellow academics and students of UniKL Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, so Alhamdulillah, all praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for us together in this Bestari Hall. So this afternoon, so it has been a great pleasure to address everyone to this Inspirations Talk series, UniKL Business School, a treat and a treat whether I pronounce correctly, yeah, in the journey to excellence by our honorable guest, Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar, or formerly known as AWO, yeah, Tan Sri. So it is a great pleasure to meet all of you today. So on behalf of University Kuala Lumpur, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and selamat datang to Honorable Tan Sri, former minister and also the past chairman of Bursa Malaysia, and a number of corporate bodies in Malaysia, such as Telekom Malaysia, UEM, Maybank, PMB, and many more. I personally, Tan Sri, used to engage with you during your tenure as the CEO of Telekom Malaysia. At that time, I was in the Science Advisor Office and also MIND. So we organized a special workshops on Bumiputra Commercial and Industrial Cluster. We call it the BCIC that time, in the range of 2005-2007. Yeah. So I would like to place on record my highest appreciations to our distinguished guests, Tan Sri, who are able to spend his valuable time with us to come to UNICAL to share with us and also to all students his vast experience and his knowledge, and more importantly, Tan Sri, your wisdom, especially in the industries. So before I proceed, I would like to take or convey the greetings from Yang Berbahagia Professor IR Dr. Azman bin Sunain, our President and CEO of UNICAL. Please accept his sincere apologies for not being able to be with us this afternoon, as his presence is required for another commitment which coincide with another program this afternoon. Honorable Tan Sri, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, University Kuala Lumpur, the Malaysia leading higher TVET institution, was founded to support the country's aspirations to become high-income nations, industrial nation, and also to drive the skill, talents, technology, and also innovations. So UNICAL has grown into a national leader in high TVET with our 12 campuses strategically located across Malaysia. So each campus follow the concepts of one institute, one specializations, focusing on a diverse and critical industrial sectors such as aviation, aerospace, engineering technology, maritime and logistics, health sciences, biomedical technology, information technology, cyber security, and of course on business and also the entrepreneurships. So all of our 12 campuses, Tan Sri, we support the human capital development on the strategic industrial sector identified by the government, which are crucial for our economic growth. And also I'm quite proud, even this morning, the name of one of our institute, MIAT, was mentioned by the President Putin during his press conference, because our Prime Minister during, we have the official visit back in Russia for this 1 or 2 days time. So UNICAL uniqueness lies in our ability to equip our graduates with knowledge and technology transfer from around the world. We have a strategic partner range from France, Russia, Korea, and many more. So Tan Sri and also the distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, so our workshop or our seminar this afternoon, a trick and treat in the journey to excellence, is an exclusive talk series organized by UNICAL Business School. So this inspiring session is designed to motivate and also to empower UNICAL students by sharing valuable insight into leaderships, resilience, and also the personal development. So this program serves as a platform for a meaningful engagement, fostering a culture of academic excellence, sharing ideas together, of course, with Tan Sri, for our continuous growth within the UNIKL community. So in this case, for this seminar or this afternoon session, we consider like a stop or a pause for a while from your study. So a moment for us to reflect, to be inspired, and to discover how every challenge, every success, and even every failure is a meaningful part of your path towards excellence. So as we all know, UNIKL, we don't just nurture the academics, we also nurture the character, explorations, and also the confidence. So of course, the confidence in this case, we should be built in the later on in our working environment, and also our excellence in our communication with the industry, and of course with our teamwork later on. So dear students, so the excellence here, it is not only a destination, it is a mindset. It is about doing small things with a great integrity. So it is about standing back up when you fall, learning from the past, and moving towards the courage. So let today remember, okay, remember, I would like to use this word. Success is not about being the best, but I'm borrowing this word from a Superman film. Trying to do better. That is coming from the Superman. Trying to do better every single day. So may it fuel our ambitions, renew our motivation, and also most importantly, remind that your journey is worth every step. So before I end my speech, once again, I would like to take this opportunity again to Berbahagia Tan Sri for your experience. Yeah. So hopefully, you can make us, this program very meaningful to us, Tan Sri. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to place the highest record to the organizing committee led by Yang Berusaha Professor Dr. Nazaruddin, Dean of UNIKL Business School, and all of the organizing committee to make this program happen. With that, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Yang Berbahagia Professor Insinyur Dr. Azmi. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the highlight of the program, which is the Inspiration Talk session by Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar, the former minister and past chairman of Bursa Malaysia, entitled A Trip and Treat in the Journey to Excellence. Before that, allow me to read a little background of our honorable speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, Tan Sri Abdul Wahid Omar is one of the most accomplished corporate leaders in Malaysia, having successfully led as CEO in 3 major organizations in infrastructure development UEM, telecommunications at Telekom Malaysia, and financial services at Maybank. He recently retired as chairman of Bursa Malaysia and had served as group chairman of Permodalan Nasional Berhad, following completion of his term as a senator and minister in the Prime Minister's Department in charge of economic planning from June 2013 to June 2016. He is currently the chairman of WWF Malaysia and My SDG Foundation. Tan Sri is also a pro-chancellor of University Science Islam Malaysia, professor of practice at INSEAD University, and the Sultan bin Abdul Aziz Visiting Fellow at the Oxford Centre for Islamic Studies, UK. Tan Sri Abdul Wahid is a member of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, ICAEW, and the Malaysian Institute of Accountants, MIA. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure to cordially invite Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar to deliver his talk. Let's give a big round of applause.
Thank you, Lara, for that very kind introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon. Let me begin by thanking Prof. Dr. Azmi, Cik Arif, Prof. Naziruddin, Prof. Rizwan, and the management members and students of UNIKL for being here this afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. I always say that whenever there's an invitation from UNIKL, which is part of MARA, I can never say no. I'll try my best to actually to oblige because I'm indeed an anak MARA. So it's indeed a pleasure to be here. I'm just going to try to retrieve my slides, if I may. Okay, now I'm not sure whether, okay, so if I can have my slides please. Yep, okay. Okay, here you are, thank you. Oh, this is canggih that I appear on the slide as well. So anyway, the theme of this talk is a trip and trade. So I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the term trip and trade. So for me personally, I'm actually not familiar, but I'm more familiar with trick or treat. Yeah. So as a student in the UK, I still remember my first year at in catering when I was doing my A levels. So it was Halloween time, right? And Halloween time is actually when at night the kids, children would actually go from one house to another. They knock on your door. They will be dressed in the Halloween costume, macam hantu, all the stuff, right? And then they say trick or treat. So initially we didn't know what it was all about, so we just went blank. And then later we understood you're supposed to actually give them sweets. Otherwise, they will actually do some tricks on you. Then what we did was to quickly actually go to the stores next door, bought some sweets, and we were prepared after that. So just in case you don't know, trick or treat. So anyway, today I've been asked to share with you my perspective on leadership. What I thought I would do is to spend about an hour or so to share with you three areas. One is actually to share with you my personal leadership journey, and then secondly, what the lessons learned. So for that, I would like to share with you my 10 thoughts on leadership, how to be a successful and a sustainable leader. And the third part is I thought is important for me to share with you about how we can move forward as a country to be a prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable nation. So I think the third part will be quite interesting in terms of looking at Malaysia, how can we move forward for the future. Now let me start with this slide. So I'm truly honored and grateful to be an anak MARA since the age of 13. So I was born as the 9th child in the family of 11 siblings. We were poor, but we were fortunate because MARA was actually set up, among others, as part of the efforts to eradicate poverty. We do that by giving children from poor families good education so that they can take the family out of poverty. I only got 4 A's and 1 C in my standard 5 assessment test. That means that so 4 A's and 1 C, not good enough to go into MCKK or SDAM, but fortunately MARA had set up MRSM, Maktab Rendah Sains MARA, and MARA was kind enough to admit students with a C. So my C was in English. Budak kampung memang tak pandai cakap English at that point in time. But Alhamdulillah, after going through the assessment test and interview, I gained admission into Emerson Seremban, and from that C in English at Standard 5, Alhamdulillah at SPM I was able to get an A. Not A1 but A2, but still an A, I suppose. So I think it proves the point that it's not about the intelligence of a person, it's about the opportunity given to that student. So that's why I think we should continue with this policy to make sure that every single person will be given equitable opportunity to excel in life by being given good education. Now, when I was young, obviously being poor, I asked people which profession would make a lot of money, and I was told accountants make a lot of money. And since I was good in numbers, I chose accountancy as a profession. So Alhamdulillah, Mara sponsored me to go to the UK to do A-levels and then to pursue ECCA, which is a professional accounting qualification. But sorry, so that photo, this is actually the photo back in 1987. Most of you were not born yet. But this is a day of departure after I completed my ACCA exams. And as usual, being Malaysians, one person will be flying and 30 people will be sending the person at the airport. Right? So it happens at KLIA and also at Heathrow Airport. So if you can guess which one is me, so sorry, this is actually being brought by this. This is me in the middle. Obviously, I had a lot more hair at the point in time. So if you want to retain your hair, don't take up accountancy. So for some of you, Prof. Rezanon, your children have taken accountancy and so on. So tak sempat lah, too late already to reverse. So anyway, I was fortunate to have had a very successful, I would say, a professional career over the past 37 years. Now, I must admit that as an accountant, my ambition was to be the Chief Financial Officer of a major public corporation, public sector company. And that was achieved when I was 37 years old. That was back in March 2001 when I was appointed as the Chief Financial Officer of Telecom Malaysia Berhad. Now, I certainly never imagined to go beyond that, but Alhamdulillah, that was actually achieved. And of course, and as an accountant, you know, the pride will be when you are featured on the cover of the accountancy magazine. So Alhamdulillah, in May 2017, ICAW actually featured me on the front cover. Apparently, I was the second Malaysian to be featured on the cover. The first was Tony Fernandez, that amazing guy as well. Anyway, I never expected to go beyond that, but I was fortunate to be given the opportunity to run 3 major organizations as CEO. First at Group. At the point in time, Group had just been taken over by Khazanah, and they wanted someone to spearhead the turnaround. Given my corporate restructuring and investment banking background, I was chosen to actually spearhead that turnaround. And Alhamdulillah, after 2.5 years, we were able to actually turn it around, and Group was back on a profitable track. And after that, I was actually asked to go back to Telecom Malaysia in a bigger capacity as a CEO. Now, my mandate at Telecom Malaysia was to transform Telecom Malaysia to be original telecommunications company with particular emphasis on mobile communications. And Alhamdulillah, we were able to expand our operations into Indonesia, Singapore, Cambodia, and strengthen our presence in Sri Lanka and so on, until a decision was made to separate the mobile operations under TM International and get it listed separately. So today, Axiata Group, formerly known as TM International, is already separately listed, and the mobile communications company, with Telecom Malaysia being made to refocus on the development of high-speed broadband network in a public-private partnership with the government of Malaysia. So we were in the midst of undertaking the demerger when I was approached by Maybank to be the CEO, and that was part of the intention from the board to transform Maybank to be a regional banking group. After a number of conversations, I agreed to join Maybank on 1st of May 2008. And alhamdulillah, again, with the support from all the friends, we were able to overcome all the challenges. There were three major challenges in particular. The first was to follow through on the three major acquisitions Maybank embarked on in the early part of me joining. This was actually finalized before I joined, but there were some controversies surrounding those acquisitions, and we had to raise some 11 billion ringgit in funding. But alhamdulillah, we were able to overcome all those challenges and successfully completed those acquisitions of banks in Indonesia, in Vietnam, and in Pakistan. The second challenge was to make sure that Maybank was able to sail through the global financial crisis of 2008. And at that point in time, some of you may remember that some big banks like ABN AMRO, people like Lehman Brothers collapsed, and even Citigroup almost collapsed, but they were rescued by the Federal Reserve. And in fact, I still remember getting a call from the CEO of Citibank in Malaysia, asking Maybank for help to make available some cash to meet the large withdrawals they were experiencing at their branch in Penang. So as you know, whenever you have a crisis of confidence, there will be a potential run on the bank. So the idea would be, when you are met with large withdrawals, you must make sure that you have enough cash to meet the withdrawals, because the moment you say, sorry, we don't have enough cash, please come back tomorrow, it will be disastrous. There will be more and more people wanting to withdraw money. So as it turned out, alhamdulillah, those monies made available were not required and things stabilized. So those were some of the challenges that we had to protect and we had to go through in order to protect the banking system in Malaysia from that impact or contingent impact from Europe and from the US. The third challenge was in respect of the underlying performance of Maybank itself. Maybank had been the #1 bank in Malaysia for more than 10 years, and every year Maybank will be reporting profit, record profit. But when we started to analyze the actual performance between 2003 and 2008, Maybank was growing by only 5% per annum in terms of profit and assets, when the competitors like Public Bank and CIMB and even RHB were growing by 20% per annum. So the trend is that if you are #1, but you're growing much slower than your competitors, in no time they will overtake Maybank. And in fact, most analysts had already come up to that conclusion. So our role then was to make sure that we come up with a performance improvement program to improve the performance, and alhamdulillah, we were able to actually improve our performance, and within 18 months our profit was up and we were beating all the other competitors. So that's actually my stint at Maybank, which was very fulfilling. It was tough, but fulfilling because we were able to maintain our position as the #1 bank. Now, after 5 years at Maybank as a CEO, I really wanted to continue to run Maybank, because at that point in time, after you are successful, the money was good. So bonuses were in the millions and so on. So I did want to retire at Maybank because we were actually coasting very well. But after the general election in 2013, I was called to meet with the Prime Minister, Dr. Najib, at that point in time, and he invited me to join the cabinet. Now, at that point in time, naturally, as someone who had benefited from government scholarship, it was time to do national service. So, to be clear, I'm not a politician. I have no political aspirations. I'm not even a member of any political party. But when the call for duty came, I said yes, on condition that I only serve for 1 term as a senator of 3 years. And I was very clear about the task, and I must say that it was a very fulfilling 3 years. And just to be clear, again, being a non-politician, my role was to bring private sector's perspective into government and to give government the courage to implement important policies, but which may not be popular. So among others, to undertake the fiscal consolidation and subsidy rationalization. We removed the subsidy at that time. We implemented GST, which wasn't easy to do because somehow in Malaysia, GST was demonized. And in fact, indeed, later when it was changing government, it was actually abolished, unfortunately. Anyway, we can talk about that later. But the point here is actually we have to do the right thing. So sometimes, even though it's not popular, and for me it's okay because I do not have to go for elections. So I'm not a politician. So they can hit me, but it's okay because I don't have to be popular in that sense. So alhamdulillah, that the job was done, so to speak. Also had the benefit of crafting the 11th Malaysia Plan, led the negotiation with the Singapore government on the development of high-speed rail. Again, unfortunately, this was shelved later. Assisted in regional agenda, including Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. Also had to chair the Special Economics Committee to deal with the financial markets turbulence. This was back in August 2015. And also had the benefit of tabling 3 new acts in Parliament. As someone who's not a politician, I thought one of the most interesting aspects was the ability to table the new acts in Parliament. This was something which I would say money cannot buy. And one of them involved the restructuring of Malaysia Airlines. And that was actually the time when I realized that Malaysians are very, very passionate about the national carrier, Malaysia Airlines. Because under normal circumstances, whenever you table a new act in Parliament, you may have some challenges at the Dewan Rakyat level, but the moment it goes to Dewan Negara, it's normally plain sailing. But for Malaysia Airlines bill, at that point in time, it was tough. We had a 3-hour session at Dewan Negara, so I had to justify why this needed to be done. But so all those queries were because they were very passionate and they love Malaysia Airlines. And I do hope that Malaysia Airlines will perform well and will actually grow back to its former glory in the future, hopefully. So the 3 years in government. So now I completed my tenure in June 2016. So for a couple of months I was unemployed. So I took up driving Uber, among others. Before I was actually appointed as the chairman of PNB. And to me, this was one of the most optimal appointment for me because having been a CEO and having been a minister, to go back as chairman of PNB was a position which I could exert a lot of influence and get things done, working together with our CEO then, Datuk Rahman Ahmad. So alhamdulillah, notwithstanding the 2-year period, we were able to do a lot of things. Among others, we improved the returns, we undertook the transformation of strategic companies of PNB. We also, among others, addressed the haro status of investments in ESN and ESB. Now, make no mistake, back in 2008, the National Muzakarah Council had already issued a fatwa that investments in ESB and ESN was halal or harus, permissible, if you like. So all the state fatwa committees agreed, except for Selangor and Pulau Pinang, right? So these states disagreed. So we actually had to convince them that is actually harus or halal. So what we did was we restructured the portfolio, we sold down or sold off our investments in tobacco companies, for example, and we, over time, we actually removed our investment in interest-bearing instruments and so on. So the only thing which we had to retain was our shares in some of the banking stocks, and in particular Maybank. That was on the basis that there is no alternative for you to be invested in Sharia-compliant equity instruments, because the concept here in Malaysia is that the Islamic banks are actually embedded within the conventional bank. And because PNB was controlling Maybank, PNB was able to ensure that the majority Muslim management team at Maybank would pursue the Islamic first strategy. And that strategy has enabled Maybank Islamic to grow much faster and bigger, such that today Maybank Islamic is the largest Islamic bank in Malaysia. It is 3 times bigger than Bank Islam, and it's the 5th largest Islamic bank in the world. And also, by today, Islamic financing now makes up 70% of Maybank's total financing in Malaysia. So alhamdulillah, it worked well in that sense. So with that, alhamdulillah, so the Selangor and Pulau Pinang fatwa committees also agreed that okay, investment in ASB, ASN, semuanya halal or harus. Now, after that, so in May 2020, I was privileged to be appointed as Bursa Malaysia, and for me this was quite interesting because having served as leaders at the public listed company level and then at PMB level, I'm now able to go back to Bursa Malaysia on the board of Bursa Malaysia. Now, I had served on the board of Bursa Malaysia for 7 years before this in 2004 until 2011. But to go back as a chair was a great privilege, I would say. At that point in time, we were experiencing COVID-19 during the movement control order. So many challenges in terms of having to deal with the surge in volume, having to deal with the volatility. But alhamdulillah, we were able to do that. And maybe I can highlight two other achievements during my tenure. The second was in respect of truly living up to our purpose. Now, our purpose as the stock exchange would be to be the marketplace where businesses come to get listed, to raise money, to raise capital, to enable them to grow. So there was a time that we were very much focused on only the big companies, but we said no, we should be catering and focusing and do all we can to promote smaller, medium-sized and large companies, not just large companies. So that means that promoting all three, the lead market, the east market and the main market, businesses of all shapes and sizes. We also heeded the call by the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister 2 years ago, he at the launch of one of our events, he said, look, SC Bursa Malaysia, I would like you to improve your efficiency and among others by reducing the time that you take to process listing applications. So there was a time that although we said, okay, it can be between 3 to 6 months, but many of the applications would take 4 or 5 months, basically. And when you take longer, sometimes the companies will have to undertake a fresh audit in order to issue the prospectus. So, and this created uncertainty. So we did the call between Bursa Malaysia and the SC. We worked on the shorter timeline of 3 months. So we committed to process everything within 3 months, and alhamdulillah, based on that, there was greater certainty, and we were seeing more and more companies interested to get listed. And in fact, last year, we had a total of 55 companies going for listing, raising some 7.4 billion ringgit. And that made Bursa Malaysia as the most vibrant stock exchange for IPO in this region. So beating even Indonesia and Singapore and Thailand. So that's actually quite a feat, and it goes back to my reason that as a leader, it's important for you to really go back to your purpose. And I think inshallah, you do it well, you fulfill not just the business needs, but you'll be successful eventually. Now, another element in my tenure at Bursa Malaysia, which I emphasized on, was on the need to further promote Islamic capital markets. So when the government challenged us, Bursa Malaysia, to develop the voluntary capital market, for example, we said, okay, we're going to do it in a Sharia compliant manner. So indeed, we developed Bursa Carbon Exchange to be the world's first voluntary carbon market. So that's a good achievement. And then we saw a lot of demand by investors to invest in gold as a good hedge against inflation. We then developed Bursa Gold Dinar, which is a digital platform where investors can invest from as low as 10 ringgit. And then once they have accumulated up to 1 dinar, which is about 4.25 grams, they can even redeem it for real gold. So whatever gold that you buy on the platform is actually backed by real gold, and we make sure that the transaction cost is affordable. So before we developed Bursa Gold Dinar, some of the other platforms were charging as much as 7% spread. means that you buy today, and if you want to sell tomorrow, you will lose 7% already, right? So you have to wait until the gold price actually increase above 7%, then only you're breaking even. Whereas on our platform, we started with below 2, that's what our commitment. I think today is probably about 1.4%. So of course, efforts will continue to reduce it further. And the good news is that when we built that platform at more affordable spread, suddenly we saw all the other platforms also actually reduce their spread as well. So some of the banks that used to charge 3 to 4% have also reduced their spread, so which is actually a good thing. And another aspect was in terms of encouraging people to pay zakat. So Bursa Malaysia has been a Sharia compliant stock for quite a while, but we have not been paying zakat. So in the financial year 2020, we resolved that we should lead by example, and we ourselves actually zakat, started to pay zakat on our business income from financial year 2020. And we also work with Persatuan Remaja Bumi Pribumi to develop the world's first zakat index as well. So the idea again would be to encourage businesses to pay zakat. I always believe that, although I mean it's not mandatory per se, but by doing so, I think inshallah you will gain barakah in my view. So alhamdulillah, those are some of the achievements, and the emphasis has been, among others, the continued development of the Islamic financial services and Islamic capital markets. And alhamdulillah, last month I was invited to speak at the Al Barakah Islamic Economic Symposium, and at one of the events, they accorded awards to 10 individuals for their role in the development of capital market. So alhamdulillah, I was identified as one of those 10 persons, and the award was given by the governor of Madinah, the Prince. So indeed, for me, it was a nice, I would say, conclusion to my tenure at Bursa Malaysia. So that was up to 30th of April. That was 2 weeks ago actually. Rasa macam dah lama because since then I've been to Dubai on the WWF matter, and I got back on Friday. Then last Saturday, I took my wife for honeymoon. Sorry, the same wife for the past 32 years, just to be clear. In Phuket for 3 days, for 3 nights, and got back 2 days ago. And itulah, rasa macam dah lama dah retire, tapi punya baru 2 minggu. So anyway, it's been a fulfilling 5 years at Bursa Malaysia, and so I guess when you add up on top of the 32 years earlier, so total 37 years altogether. So what are the lessons learned? Well, there are many. So let me share 10 of them. The first one is about knowing that if you want to be a successful leader, you have to go back to purpose. You must believe in purpose. Do good, inshallah, you'll gain barakah and you'll be successful. So again, always go back to purpose. So in the context of UniKL, obviously one of the principal role of UniKL and Mara in general is actually to provide that equitable opportunity to underprivileged kids to gain access to good quality education, entrepreneurship, and so on, so that they can lead a better life. So always go back to that purpose. I think inshallah you will be successful. Secondly, in terms of the qualities needed to be a good and effective leader, there are many. You have read many management books, but I tend to focus only on the top 3. Somehow my brain cells are not large enough to be able to remember too many things. I tend to focus a lot on 3 items. So in this case, the top 3 would be integrity, competence, and humility. Now, what do we mean by integrity? As you know, integrity is about doing the right thing even when no one's watching, right? And so in simple terms, please don't cheat, don't steal, don't lie, don't take bribes, don't give bribes, either personally or at the corporate level. So very simple. So orang tak nampak, tapi you still buat yang betul. kalau pergi tandas tu, lepas keluar tandas, semua keluar tandas tu, cuci tangan, sabun. Walaupun tak ada orang, jangan terus keluar. Make sure that you do it, right? So I'm reminding myself. Kadang-kadang tu macam tengah sibuk-sibuk nak lari, no, pergi masuk balik, cuci tangan and so on. So again, it's about doing the right thing even when one is watching. The second quality is competence. Competence is about having the right skills and knowledge to do the job well. I think it's important for you to be able to do well. But make sure that you know that, of course, we don't know everything, but at least in doing your task, there must be a certain core competency that you must have. For example, when I was appointed to the CEO of Group, that was actually my first job as a CEO. I had no experience as a CEO before. But what was needed at the point in time was the expertise in corporate restructuring, in debt restructuring, financial engineering, right? And that was my forte. So I did not know how to run a construction company, a cement company. So for that, I relied on teamwork. So there were other people who were there to be able to actually run those operations well, so that I can focus on my main task of undertaking the financial restructuring of Group, so that the group can pay off its debts and be viable and profitable. So that's actually competence. The third element or quality is humility. Now, humility is probably the least spoken about. And what do we mean by humility? Well, humility is about treating people with mutual respect. It's about staying grounded to your roots, and it's about knowing that we all live in this world for a greater purpose in life rather than our self-interest. And humility is also knowing that we do not know everything and we need teamwork in order to succeed. So if you have these three qualities, integrity, competence and humility, inshallah, you'll be okay, you'll do well. And likewise, when you are electing your resident associations committee members, make sure they have these three qualities. When you go for election, you are choosing, crossing, nak pangkah yang mana, tanya ke, yang mana calon yang ada integriti, yang ada berkebolehan, yang mana ada sikap merendah diri. So if they ada, cross that one, right? So likewise, when you appoint your heads of department, make sure that they have all these three qualities. So it applies again in the corporate sector and in our social committee life as well. Number three is about they need to work hard and work smart. So to be clear, there's no shortcut to success. A lot of people ask me and told me that you don't have to work hard, just work smart. Well, my answer to that is that there are so many other people who are smarter than you are. But working hard without proper planning is also useless, right? So you must combine the two. So do proper planning, strategize, and then you work hard, you execute well. And I think inshallah you'll be successful. Number four is about the need to continuous learning and to use technology to your advantage. Now, don't stop learning. I learn new things every day. And you know, this morning I was at University Malaya for a talk to some of the leaders there, and I also learned new things from having that conversation with Dr. Anis, who's the head of Ybhg, for example. He was sharing with me some of the past experience, the challenges and so on. So make no mistake, we learn new things every single day. So don't be afraid to ask questions, to read, and use technology. So today we are fortunate because we have access to information available, a wealth of information available at our fingertips, right? So all you have to do is just search for it. Go to websites, Google, ChatGPT and so on. So use it to your advantage. Number five is about the need to focus on your task at hand, to do it well, and inshallah your reputation will precede you. Now, a lot of people ask me, how come I actually moved from one organization to another? So the truth is, I only applied for 2 jobs, ever. One was when I got back from the UK, I applied for a job at KPMG. But I found out later that I did not like auditing. All right, so no offense to auditors here and lecturers who are teaching audit here. So no offense. It's just that I did not enjoy auditing. So then I said, okay, I wanted to be an investment banker. How did I know about investment banking? Well, when I was staying at Mar Hostel in London, so those of you who, some of you may not know, Mara used to have Mara Hostel at Bryanston Square. Sorry, not Bryanston. Gosh, Leinster Square, 37 Leinster Square, dekat Bayswater. Yeah. So I stayed there, and at that point in time, during some weekends, we have visitors, and one of those visitors was Datuk Izzadin Idris. So Datuk Izzadin was my senior at MRSM Seremban. So at that point in time, he was working with BZW, an investment bank owned by Barclays. So he was working here at MIMB, Malaysian International Merchant Bankers, and then seconded to London. So during weekends, would come and chat with us dekat Mar Hostel about how interesting his job as an investment banker was. So talking about mergers and acquisitions, listing, IPO, and so on. So that's when I was attracted. So and that's when I applied for a job at Bumiputera Merchant Bankers. And alhamdulillah, I was actually admitted. So those were the two jobs that I ever applied for. The rest was actually by reputation. So again, my advice to you, really focus on doing your job well, because once you do your job well, your boss will recognize you, and even your competitors, the people who you are dealing with across the table will recognize you as well. And that's been the reason all the subsequent jobs that came in, positions that I had. Some young people, they plan, I want to work here for 1 year, 2 years, and then 3 years there. And they are looking so far ahead that they forgot to look at what's in front of them. And when there's an obstacle which they fail to realize and they trip over it and so on. So again, focus on your task and do it well. Inshallah, you'll be successful and your reputation will precede you. Number 6 is about the need to address fundamentals rather than form. Now, we must know that if you just focus on form without substance, you will not go anywhere. I think it's important for you to really improve on the fundamentals first, improve your service, improve your market share, for example, before you start to think about branding or rebranding, as the case may be. Now, one example, I mentioned about Malaysia Airlines before. So there's one time, Malaysia Airlines entered into a code sharing agreement with Emirates, right? Now, when they did that, they said, oh, this is a great achievement, okay? And what they did to announce that collaboration, they took up a wrap, so the Star newspaper, so they took up a wrap advertising Malaysia Airlines now have code share with Emirates, and you can fly to Buenos Aires for 6,000 ringgit. You can fly to Barcelona for 5,000 ringgit, 4,000 baht to 5,000 ringgit. So when I saw that, I said, it's crazy. You're advertising something which is not cheap. There's a lot of money. Then when I went into the Emirates website, I could have bought the same ticket on Emirates for much cheaper than they advertise. So I think this way again, you are overly, focused on advertising without addressing the substance, you will end up amplifying your weakness, right? So I think that's why focus on improving the fundamentals first, and then you can actually blast it out, engage on PR or branding or rebranding, as case may be, right? So, and that applies to your personal branding too. So for all of your students, make sure that you improve your knowledge. So once you have that substance, then you can complement it with good dressing and so on. So no matter how well you dress with a suit, necktie and so on, but if you've got no substance, the moment you open your mouth, people will smell it, and there goes your credibility, okay? So again, branding or rebranding only after you have improved your fundamentals. Number 7 is about the need to keep innovating, to think outside the box or blue ocean in coming up with solutions to any problem. Now, I'm not referring to only technology, it can be anything at all. It can be your accounting policy, it can be your dividend reinvestment plan, that's what we had experienced at Maybank, even in dealing with the overcrowding in prison. So I'll give you one example. Malaysian government was experiencing a challenge back in 2012, 2013. At that point in time, we were experiencing overcrowding at our prisons. We had many criminals who were sentenced, both petty criminals and hardcore criminals. And the request from the prisons department was to build more prisons. So we have many criminals, so build more prisons to accommodate the prisoners. So that's the conventional thinking, right? Of course. So we don't have that much money, and even if you have money, priority should be given to building more schools and building more hospitals, right? Instead of building more prisons. So then the government said, okay, are there facilities that we can use to put the petty criminals and focus a lot more on rehabilitation as opposed to punishment? See, the thing is, if you are going to put all the criminals in one location, both the petty criminals and the hardcore criminals, so you're actually allowing the petty criminals to learn from the serious criminals, right? And some of them, unfortunately, did succumb to that. When they go out, the rate of return to crime was high. And from petty criminals, they do even bigger things, right? So by focusing on rehabilitation and putting them separately, so you can then separate them, plus you give them new skills, whether it's agriculture or sewing or whatever, so that after 6 months of serving their sentence, they can go back to the community and be a better person, as opposed to some of them come back to be criminals again. And Alhamdulillah, with that blue ocean solution, the Malaysian government was able to actually avoid building more prisons and utilize some of the army camps that were grossly underutilized. And the outcome was that the rate of return to crime, we call it recidivism rate, actually was much less than 1%. So drop. So Alhamdulillah, it actually worked. So again, my suggestion to you is to think outside the box. It doesn't have to be technology, it can be anything. Right? Number 8 is about the need to keep up with technology and to embrace sustainability. Now, technology is moving very fast. You have big data and so on, and of course, now you have artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence started with being not so intelligent initially. If you have used it in the initial part, I would find that maybe 70% accuracy of the answers that I was getting from ChatGPT. From that 70%, it's improved to 80%, 85%, 90%. And nowadays, I can find even very, very close to 100% accuracy. It's impressive. In fact, not only on economic stuff, 2 weeks ago, my sister asked me to be the spokesperson for her in the marriage of my niece, right? Ini bidang terjun. Tiba-tiba, Wahid, tolong bagi speech. Alamak, tak prepare. So naturally, when you give speech masa kenduri kahwin, you are expected to give pantun. So I'm not well versed with pantun and so on. I then check GPT pantun untuk majlis perkahwinan. Banyak choice. So I pick only 2 lah. So saya baca tu, my sister cakap, wah, mana dapat pantun lah. So from ChatGPT. So my message here is actually please use technology to your advantage, right? Now, of course, in the institutes of higher learning, you must make sure that you don't get into issues of plagiarism and so on, and don't rely 100%. But the other would be to use it as a tool. So just like in the past, we didn't have any calculator or computer, so we actually have to all do the mathematics, arithmetic in our head. So now we have all the tools, right? From the basic calculator to the complicated statistical calculator to now computer. So now we have AI, right? So I think there must be that flexibility to actually use it, but in a way which is constructive, I would say. So again, use it to your advantage. Sustainability. Well, I'll come back to that a bit later in terms of talking about climate change and so on. Number 9 is about the need for all of you to stay fit and healthy. Now, this is important. Please look after your health, especially when you're young, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, among others, 3 things. Number 1 is to make sure that you exercise enough, stay fit and keep fit. Number 2 is about the need to watch your diet. So watching your diet means not just the quantity of the food that you take, but the type and also the timing of the food. Please do not have late dinners and so on, because the worst thing is for you to sleep with your stomach being full, and that's when your arteries will get clogged and so on. And the third element is in terms of managing your stress. So make sure that by doing exercise, you also part of stress management. But make sure that you do from time to time, have your, well, not teh tarik, but maybe ice som tarik or something, chat with your friends. And for me personally, when I was working very stressful environment, towards the later part of my career, I started to plan for quarterly vacation, and meaning that is the weekend drive to PD or to Kuantan or balik kampung JB and so on. So those are the kind of things that you can do to actually manage your stress. So one of the things which I do to manage my stress now is to cook. So I find that to be very, very therapeutic. Not to cook at home, so let me clarify. Cooking only when I'm abroad. Kalau pergi holiday tu, the Airbnb tu, okay, I will take charge of the kitchen. So it's part of education to my mind. Again, to do something which is outside your ordinary routine, and that's a part of anti-stress management, I would say. Now, please do not be like me. When I was younger, I did not look after my health. I have gone through 4 angioplasty procedures, 4 kali lah. Not bypass, but angioplasty, which was actually challenging enough. And the last one was in 2017, and 6 months after that, it got blocked again. So the cardiologist told me to do the 5th time. I said talarat lah, because the 4th time was actually quite challenging when it comes to recovery. So my problem now is actually, alhamdulillah, I'm okay, but I can't sprint, I can't run anymore. So beyond a certain heart rate, I'll get the atrial fibrillation, for example. So that tended to limit my physical lifestyle and so on. So my request to all of you would be, please look after your health when you're young, and consistently all over throughout your career. Because if you do not look after your health, if you're not fit, not only will you be less productive for your organization, but when you retire, it can be a burden to the family, because the cost of healthcare is very, very high. So make no mistake. So please look after your health, family. And the last one here is about the need to be grateful, to be helpful, to be kind, and to be pleasant. So sometimes we forget to be grateful to the Almighty, Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, and sometimes we forget to be thankful to our parents, to our lecturers, our teachers, who have taught us along the way to be a good person. And sometimes we are not kind enough to people. So sometimes, because we are in authority, the first word that comes up from our mouth will be no. Please don't do that. I think you have to be constructive, be helpful. When you are helpful to people, it doesn't cost you anything. When you are kind to people, again, it doesn't cost you anything to be kind. And when you're pleasant, people want to deal with you, they want to support you. and whenever you need help, later they will also help you in your life as well. So again, so be a kind person, pleasant person to deal with, be grateful, and be thankful to all the blessings that Allah has given to us. So those are the 10 thoughts for you to be a successful and sustainable leader, if I may. Now, that brings me to the third part of my talk, which is about, this is the bigger picture. So how you can play a role in the future of this country. So I think it's actually important for you to understand the direction of the country, the aspiration, and so on. Now, like most countries, Malaysia would like to be a prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable nation. Now, prosperous means that the economic cake would continue to grow. Inclusive meaning that you share the economic growth equitably among all the population, basically, and making sure that no one is left behind. So making sure that the people in the rural areas will enjoy similar growth compared to the urban areas. Likewise, people in the East Coast will also be able to enjoy the growth. People in Sabah Sarawak will also not be left behind. So again, making sure it's inclusive. Sustainable, making sure that sustainable from both a financial perspective and also from an environmental perspective too. Now, whether it was Prime Minister Tun Mahathir in the past with his Wawasan 2020, or Datuk Sri Najib with his new economic model, or Tan Sri Muhyiddin with his Wawasan Kemakmuran Bersama, and followed by Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri, and today we have Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim as the Prime Minister advocating the Malaysia Madani framework. Is actually similar in terms of the aspiration. Again, be prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable. So today we have the Madani economic framework, which is about two things. One is raising the ceiling to be among the top 30 leading economies in the world, and the other objective is about raising the floor, making sure that the income of the people will also improve. And there are a number of targets that have been set under the framework to be the top 30 largest economy by GDP. And then to be the most top 12 among the globally competitive economies, to manage our finances well, in the corruption perception index, to be among the top 25. Of course, today we are at number 57th, and last year also still number 57, no change. So we have to do a lot more in terms of dealing with corruption and so on. So those are relating to the economy. On raising the floor, income of people, this is most relevant. Increasing the share of labor as a percentage of GDP. So wages to GDP share to be increased from 33.1% in 2023 to 45%. By 2033. So that's actually the target. So my view is actually 45% is a bit too high, but 40% is good. And that's something which we must continue to strive. So on the ceiling, to go from number 36 to number 30, we need to know who's at number 30. It's Thailand, 529 billion US dollars. And Malaysia is at number 36, it's 440 billion US dollars. Now, if we want to overtake Thailand, so we have to outpace the growth of Thailand by at least 2% per annum, right? Outpace means that if they are growing by 4%, we have to grow by 6%. If they are growing by 3%, we have to grow by 5% in nominal terms, right? And that's also assuming that others do not grow faster. So make no mistake, because the others are also aspiring to be among the top 30 as well. So of course, therefore, the work for us is a lot harder to be able to achieve this. Now, the fortunate part is that, alhamdulillah, over the years, we've been growing. Last year, for example, we grew by 5.1%, higher than the 3.6% we grew in 2023. And if you were to look at our average GDP growth for the past 26 years, it's about 4.5%. Now, we were very much on track to grow by another 5% in 2025 until Trump came up with his tariffs. So that's going to impact the growth, if I may. It's actually not easy to track the tariffs being announced by Trump because on one hand, today he may announce something, tomorrow he may change it, he may defer it, and so on. But suffice to say, for Malaysia, we have been slapped with a reciprocal tariff of 24%, which is supposedly 50% discount from 47% that we were supposed to be imposed. When we inquired, how do you arrive at 24%? Well, what they did was to look at the size of the trade deficit, which is about $24.8 billion US dollars, divide by the total import. So you have about 47%, and then because Malaysia has been a good partner and so on, bagi discount 50%. So that's actually the 24% that has been slapped to us, which is actually higher than Singapore, being slapped at 10%, but not as high as some of the other countries. Some of the other countries had to pay up 47% and so on. So in a way, on a relative basis, not as bad as some of the other countries. But again, as I said, these things keep changing and subjected to negotiation. And most recently, they've imposed a much higher tariff on our solar panels. So we were imposed with a 34%, 34.4% tariff for that. And that's on account of allegations that some of the manufacturers here in Malaysia, they are proxies of China and so on. So again, there's some of these allegations and so on. But the point here is actually this Trump tariff is actually very, very disruptive, not just to Malaysia, but to the global economy. And because of that, we can expect the global economy to be affected. So likewise, Malaysia will be affected too. But having said that, we believe that, so the world economy, so last year we grew by 3.3%, and the forecast for next year is now down to 2.5%, and then even down to 2.4% in 2026. So this is actually using Maybank's forecast. So as you know, I've been working with Maybank, and I tend to use their numbers, but whether it's Maybank or CIMB or AFIN or anyone else, RHB and so on, the forecast would almost be similar, if I may. So for Malaysia, before this, we were talking about 4.9 to 5% growth, but with the Trump tariff issue, it's going to go down to about 4.3% growth. So you are seeing between 60 to 70 basis points in terms of reduction in GDP growth. But having said that, growing by more than 4% is still not bad, right? And why is that so? Well, among others, we have learned from our past lessons. So we had, among others, the Asian financial crisis, the global financial crisis, and the financial market turbulence that have taught us many lessons in order to actually strengthen our financial system and better risk management and so on. So we've also increased our international reserves, now at 118.7 billion US dollars. That's sufficient to cover 5 months of retail imports and almost 1 time our short-term external debt. We've also diversified the structure of our economy over the years. So back in this was back in 2013. So back in 2009 rather, 27% of our GDP was contributed by the commodity sector, meaning mining and agriculture. But today, those sectors, commodities, have been reduced to only 12%. So less subjected to volatility, if I may. So that's in the structure of our economy. And likewise, in our export markets, making sure that we are not over dependent on any particular market. So as you know, obviously we are part of ASEAN and we do encourage intra-ASEAN trade. Our export to ASEAN countries make up 29% of our total exports, and this can grow further to perhaps 40%, inshallah. But our export to US is 13%. China is our largest trading partner. We export to them 12.4%. But in terms of import, I think about 18% of our imports actually come from China. So I think, again, obviously, we must make sure that we are not over-dependent on any particular country. So having this diversified structure in our economy, our export markets, our products, is actually very, very important. So one great thing about our economy is that it's intermediated by a fully functioning banking system, financial system. So our banks are strong, liquid, well-capitalized, and well-managed, and very well supervised by the central bank to the tune of 3.7 billion. Our capital adequacy ratio is very high at 17.8%, and also in terms of the asset quality, gross impact loans ratio 1.4%, which is low, and then even then is covered by provisions. So loan loss coverage ratio is actually more than 100%, again, which is a good thing. Beyond the banking system, we also have one of the most developed capital markets in Southeast Asia, to the tune of 4.2 trillion ringgit, comprising of both Islamic and conventional, and equities and that market as well. Obviously, as a member of ASEAN, we have gone beyond that. Being members of other trading blocs is also very, very important. RCEP, CPTPP, BRICS, and of course also taking advantage of closer collaboration with our neighbors. The Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone is actually one example of that. So these are all some of the measures to make sure that our growth will be resilient, if I may say. Now, those were the things about growing the economy, raising the ceiling. So let me now just talk about how we can address the issue of raising the floor, the income of the people. And this is actually the unfortunate part, because notwithstanding that we've been growing as an economy, but the income of our people in general is still very low, in my view. So before this, many of you would have heard about the household income level of Malaysians to the tune of 6,000 ringgit per month. But to be clear, that's actually household income, means that in the household you may have two income earners, and then based on statistics, you also tend to gross up your income if you own the home. And then on the other side, in your expenditure, there'll be a rent imputed in your expenditure as well, right? So therefore, looking at the household income would tend to be inflated from that perspective. The true measure of income that our people get every month would be from this data, the wages data released by the Department of Statistics for the first time last year. So in September last year, they released this data as of June 2024. And this is based on your EPF contribution and your SOCSO contribution. So these are people who work in the formal sector. So people like you and me in the past, whether it's GLC or GLIC or private entity SMEs and so on. So there are 6.7 million workers in the formal sector, and the median income is only 2,745 ringgit per month, right? And that's inclusive of allowances, not just basic salary, inclusive of allowances, and it's inclusive of proportionate bonus. So it means that if you are getting 2.4 months of bonus for a year, so you divide by 12, you get 0.2 months to be prorated into this number. So out of that 6.7 million workers, 3.45 million, 3.5 million workers actually earn 2,745 ringgit and below, which is actually very low, right? Now, I don't see this in my companies, at UAM, at Telecommunications and so on. I think generally the people over there, they are reasonably paid. But I guess this must be from the SMEs, right? So I think it's actually sad. And to think that your T20, right, is someone who earns 5,600 ringgit and above. You're among the top 20% already, right? So I guess all the lecturers here, for sure, T20 already. And the top 10% is only 8,800 ringgit, actually, again. So my point here is actually there's something fundamentally flawed in the structure of our economy where there's a disproportionate low returns to the providers of labor compared to the providers of capital, as reflected in the low figure of 33.1%. And that's something which we need to push up to. The target by the government is 45%, but even if we get 40%, we'll be very, very happy. So, indeed. So, even sadder is when we look at some states, we have 4 states below 2,000 ringgit. Kelantan, Kedah, Perlis, and Sabah, right? Even lower. So why is it so? Well, there are many reasons. Some people say because our economy is actually small. It's not really that small, in my view. But I think chances will be more over dependence on foreign labor, less emphasis on downstream activities, customer ownership, branding. Many of our companies, they tend to focus on upstream production, but less so on the retail side, where you can add a lot more value over there. So this one I spoke about, the disproportionately higher returns to provider capital compared to labor, lack of automation, mismatched supply and demand. So what can be done? Well, many things, among others, the immediate matching of talent supply and demand. So the thing is, we have many underemployed graduates, all right? So the public universities will announce, oh, we have 90% graduate employability ratio, right? But when you look at the numbers, okay, how much are they earning? 40% of them will be earning 2,000 ringgit and below. So it's crazy that you spend 3 or 4 years in public universities, and after you graduated, you earn 2,000 ringgit. You don't need the degree, you don't need to spend that 4 years, pay PTPTN and so on, to actually earn 2,000 ringgit, right? So there's something wrong there. On the other side, you have employers. The factories in Penang, in Selangor, they're saying, look, I can't get enough engineers. I'm in demand, I'm short. There was a time that some companies in Penang, they complained they needed 5,000 engineers in the E&E sector, tapi tak ada. So something's wrong, right? Likewise, accountants. So you talk to the audit firms, PwC, KPMG, Deloitte, EY, they said they are always hungry for more accountants, right? At the same time, we also have some people who are not getting the jobs, right? So why? So I think this way, I think we need to actually do that supply and demand matching. So for that, I think we need a clearinghouse to deal with that. Providing more intensive skill enhancement programs, follow through with a pragmatic minimum wage policy, which I fully support, 1,700 today, and progressive wage policy. So there must be that clarity. How do you grow the minimum wage and progressive wage? Increase model courses, certification. So we have many general graduates, right, with general degrees and so on. But what employees need would be more specialization. So there must be that ability for institutes of higher learning to provide that certification modules as demanded by the employer. So work with the employers, what are the skills you need? Okay, then tailor-make some programs for these underemployed graduates. And of course, they need to review the foreign workers policy to encourage greater automation. And I think the thing is, although we have a low unemployment rate of only 3.2%, but the underemployment rate is still significant as measured by the income level. So I think clearly there's something that we need to do. So my view is actually in the service industry, for example, we should do away with foreign workers and encourage locals to work. Now, to be clear, locals wouldn't want to be a waiter if they are paid 1,700 ringgit, right? Because they will be subjected to abuse by some customers, by the tauke, and so on. They don't have flexibility, they work very hard and so on. Getting 1,700 ringgit, they don't want to work in general, so they might as well lepak, right? But if you can pay them 3,000 ringgit, I think that's a different story. So I always use the example of food panda, delivery drivers. Some of my friends, children, and some of my relatives even, they wouldn't want to work for low pay, but the moment they can earn 3,000-4,000 ringgit and sometimes even 5,000 ringgit a month by just doing the food delivery, they'll be working very hard, up and down, right? So you can see them. Because why? Because it's worth it, per baloi. Yeah? So that's why it's important for us to create jobs which are worthwhile for people to pursue. So, so why do we need 6 waiters in the Mama restaurant on the lot when perhaps you can do with only 2 or 3 and using technology? And that way maybe you can pay, instead of paying 1,700 minimum wage for 6 persons, then you pay 3,000 ringgit plus for that. And when those people actually earn more, and then obviously, so the others will start to be pushed up better as well in terms of pricing. So I think again, it's not easy, but I think we have to do in order to actually crack this situation. Because otherwise, we will continue to focus on stopping price increase without our income increasing. To me, the greater emphasis must be on improving the income of our people as opposed to suppressing the cost per se. So that's my thoughts and perspective on the economy. Now, since the topic, the title is actually Trip and Trade, I thought I would share with you the trip that I recently went on to. Now, as a member of the Board of Trustees of WWF, I'm exposed to many environmental issues and so on. And as you know, WWF, sorry Adi, not World Wrestling Federation, it's Worldwide Fund for Nature. Now, I've been privileged to be on the Board of Trustees for the past 6 years, and the last 3 years as the chairman. Exposed to many of these environmental issues, and it has created a lot of interest in me to go to Serengeti, to go to Masai Mara, to go to Antarctica, and also to the Arctic. And so Alhamdulillah, been able to actually do that. And the last trip was last year in October, when I had the benefit of visiting the Arctic Circle, and the other would be to actually witness some of the evidence of climate change, global warming, right in front of your eyes. So we took this luxury icebreaker called La Komandan Shako, and we went north past the 80 degrees north latitude to this ice pack area, and you can only sail through this with an icebreaker. And in this area, the thickness is about less than 1 meter, basically. So you can sail through this. Sorry. And of course, among others, we were able to actually see the polar bears, and we found one here. Is it possible to play the video? This is something which I took on my iPhone. So the bear is looking at this big ship, and initially he was curious. After a while, he got disinterested and walked away. Yeah, so it's obviously a privilege to be able to actually watch this under very cold temperature. Of course, I think in this area it was minus 10 degrees, if I may. And this is not too bad because this is actually October. The temperature will get worse, of course, in December and January. So there was a museum over there which we visited, and this is one of the glaciers that we have. So it's called Trik Hama Bay, and this was taken in 1908, and then in 2022, you can see the melting. So a big portion of glacier is actually gone, and I took this picture on 25th October. Maybe not so visible here, but when you actually get closer, you can see the glaciers were receding further. So the point here is actually global warming is real, and we need to do what we can to actually protect it. So this was in the Arctic in the north, the same thing in the south too. So this was 2.5 years ago, in November 2022, when we visited Antarctica. So we were sailing past this floating ice. Now there are 4 penguins on this ice. The 3 small ones, sorry, so black and white, so they are penguins from the Gentoo family. So Gentoo, that's the name of the species. And Gentoo penguins, they grow up to 2 feet tall. This big fellow here at the back, dark colored, is a juvenile emperor penguin. So juvenile, the plumage of orange is not visible. So it appears quite dark. And they grow up to 4 feet tall, right? Now, the thing about this photo is that in the area where I captured this on camera, this emperor penguin shouldn't be there because his colony is miles and miles away, right? But because of global warming, it got disrupted, and suddenly he actually appeared here. So indeed, as I said, global warming is actually real, and we do need to do what we can to help manage the climate change. What can we do? Well, we must support our government's effort to achieve net zero by the year 2050. Among others, important for us to understand what the issues are and truly embrace sustainability in whatever we do, and then make a personal commitment at both personal and professional level. And you can start by reducing, reusing, and recycling your waste. Separate your household waste into those that can be composted. If you have food waste, possibly to be composted, and please do that. Otherwise, do your part in making it easy for people to recycle the waste. And optimize energy consumption and convert to renewable energy if you can. And if you have a house with roof, please consider, if you're not done so, installing solar panels, right? Not only will you be doing good for the environment, but it's a good investment because any consumption of electricity above 900 kilowatts per month means that you will be paying about 70 cents in total per kilowatt hour, right? So in my case, I installed a 10 kilowatt hour peak solar panel. I'm able to generate 1,100 kilowatt hours per month, and therefore my savings is actually 770 ringgit per month, or about 9,000 ringgit per annum, right? And at that point in time, the cost of the panels were 40,000. But today, the same panels can be implemented for 30,000 ringgit. Of course, from time to time, government come up with all these incentives, right, to be even lower. So you can generate between 20 to 30% return on your investment. So again, doing good to the environment, and yet giving you good returns as well. So use public transport when you can. Here at UniKL, so there's a nearby station, right? So you can. If you can't, please use EV. So now the options are, getting broader. In the past, you only have Tesla, but now you have many BYD, and the prices are actually coming down very fast. So with that, again, I hope you can consider this to do your part, if I may. So my final slide is about this friend of ours. All of you know the Malayan tiger, or the Panthera tigris, is our national symbol. It's in our Jata Negara, our crest, and unfortunately is facing extinction, right? There are less than 150 individuals in the wild, and if we don't do anything at the rate we're going, it will become extinct. Now, we have already seen our Sumatran rhinos extinct in our land 5 years ago. Now, we need to make sure that we don't suffer the same fate for the Malayan tiger as well. So that's why for us at WWF, we are working with the government to protect the habitat at the Belum Temenggor, among others, and making sure that we patrol the area to avoid poachers and so on. And Alhamdulillah is getting some good outcome, but we're not able to announce as yet because the announcement will be made by the Minister of Natural Resources and Environmental Sustainability. But again, my request to all of you would be to do what you can to protect the environment, to do what you can to preserve our biodiversity for the greater good of Malaysia, the country, and of course for the Ummah as well. So with that, I thank you for your attention. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri, for the very informative session. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we shall open the floor for question and answer session. We would appreciate if you could kindly state your name before raising your question. And so may we have the first question, please? Yes.
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri. It's an honor to have you. My name is Nasution, one of the teaching staff in Ybhg Business School. Just for your information, I previously was in the Axiata Group under your tenantship. Okay, Prof, my question is revolve around your leadership. That is the core of your presentation just now. I want to focus on the three giants just now: UEM, TM, and then Maybank. Three different characters, three different problems. You managed to turn UEM into black. You managed to restructure Maybank to focus on wired technology with high-speed broadband and let others to go on the wireless or so on. And you managed to transform Maybank to become the player in the region. What is your trick? What is your trick, Transri? That's what we want to know. In terms of leadership, what you focus first? When you move from, when you go into UAM, then move to TM, then Maybank, three different characters. Apa sebenarnya trick you? Adakah you focus on transformation? Tadi I tengok number 6 you kata on the leadership sustainability. You touch on rebranding. Can you match that thing and explain to us? I nak tengok you punya strategi tu, Tan Sri.
Right. Thank you for
Thank
that.
You.
So glad that we had the benefit of working together back in Jakarta. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we do not have competence in all areas. But for us to be able to do our part, there must be a certain core competency that we must have in order to address the situation in that respective organization. So I mentioned in the case of UM Group, at that point in time, they were saddled with debts. What was required was a lot more of the corporate restructuring, debt restructuring, and a bit of financial engineering to turn it around, right? Addressing the structure and so on. So that was actually my forte, and that was actually the focus when I got the rest of the team members to focus on their respective operations, right? So again, it's the teamwork that we spoke about. So in the case of UM Group, so we identified what needed to be done. We identified that the most valuable asset was the Plus Highway that needed to be restructured and then to go for listing. But we had a very short time frame to do it, and we had to renegotiate the concession agreement. So that's actually when we dealt with it, and alhamdulillah, within a year, we were able to list Plus Expressways, and from that, plus other activities, we were able to reduce the debt level from 32 billion down to 16 billion ringgit, if you like. So that's actually at UM Group. Now, when it came to Telkom Malaysia, the mandate was to transform TM to be a regional telco, right? With particular emphasis on mobile communications. Now, at that point in time, I had served as the CFO of Telkom Malaysia before, although it was only for a short period of 7 months, but we were doing a lot of things already. So familiarity with the people is important. the familiarity with the business is actually important. Of course, I did not know the details and technology, and I'm not worried about that because we have the engineers or all the bright people, technical people were there to be part of the team. So I was focusing a lot more on strategies and embarking on M&A. So for example, we identified which company in Indonesia to be acquired because if you want to be a regional telco, you cannot not have presence in Indonesia, right? Because Indonesia is the largest economy. And there's limited opportunity. So we needed to strategize how to actually acquire that company. And in the end, we were able to acquire a company called XL Comindo. So again, it's very much based on mandate, very much situational and task driven, if I may. And then again, working together with the team members, we were able to actually acquire and then help grow the company until the decision was made to actually separate the two. So likewise in the case of Maybank, so Maybank was a bit easier from knowledge and competence perspective because I started as a banker basically. So that's actually my forte. Credit was my forte. But growing a company into the region was also my forte, having experienced that at Group and at Telkom Malaysia. But I didn't have much exposure when it comes to global banking, treasury operations, for example. But again, it's okay because we have other team members who are experts in those areas. So my point here is actually in any assignment that's given to you, you must possess a certain core competency to be able to deliver, right? But the rest, you get supplemented, complemented by other team members, if I may. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. Hi, Tan Sri. Thank you for sharing input. My name is Shahida. I'm from Ybhg Business School. We believe that the majority of the audience, we are students. Is it correct? Okay. I do have a question. You've been short on the GDP numbers, the income brackets here and there. The most thing in our mind that after we graduated, we believe that we might fall under workforce at lower income brackets, most of us, okay? But what can we do to ensure that after we graduated, we will be measured, valued based on our skills, educations, or maybe a specific areas? So that is a main thing that we always have in mind because we wanted to graduate, we want to work, we want to live. We just don't want to retain living, we don't want that. But what can we do? Number one. Okay, my second question, Tan Sri. You have went through wondrous, beautiful corporate journey. But I do have one thing because I feel that maybe some of us, we are in the midst of the crisis here. Do you ever feel uncertain or lost? And how how did you manage or navigate that period? So maybe you have 2 cents, 5 cents that you can share with us. So that's all from me. Thank you, Tan Sri.
Well, thank you, Shada. Thank you for that question. So first of all, as students, your main task would be to excel in your studies. So I believe you have already chosen the courses that you like, right? Which is in line with your aspiration. So minat tu dah ada. So what you need to do is to truly do your best to get the best course possible. So kalau boleh tu, please go for first class honors, right? Because when you have first class honors, that's always the first thing that employees look for, right? Because employers, when they advertise for jobs, they will be receiving thousands of applications. So typically what they will do, okay, I will look at CGPA of above certain, 3.5 and above only. And then out of 1,000, for example, maybe he will get 100. Then from that 100, they will then sift through further, right? So if you're only able to get 3.2, so you will not be shortlisted by the major companies if you like. So again, do your best, get the best course possible. Now, once you've gotten your bachelor's degree, depending on your profession, please do not stop there. So for example, if you are in accountancy, don't just rely on degree in accountancy, pursue professional qualification. ACCA, CIMA, ICAW, MICPA, Australian CANS and so on, right? So it doesn't matter. But you must pursue professional qualification because that's something that's demanded by the employers. Likewise, if you have architecture or engineering or any other courses, professions, again, please follow through with professional qualification because that will give you better opportunity to get employed. So once you're able to achieve that, then you will have better ability to open more doors. Now, I think, of course, not everything will be rosy. There'll be times that you'll be challenged, but while waiting for the best job offers that you may get, please do not be idle. Make sure that you are gainfully employed. Do something beneficial. So find whatever job, grab it, do it, because one of the things employers look for would be your resilience, your resolve. So for example, if let's say I open the application and I get some applications and suddenly I saw, okay, there are 2 persons who have graduated for 1 year but and looking for a job, and one has been working say at a fast food outlet, right? Another person is unemployed, right? So naturally, from my perspective as an employer, all things being equal, I will hire the person who's currently working at the fast food restaurant because I know that he or she has got that resolve, wanting to actually work hard and so on, as opposed to someone who's manja and waiting for a good job and so on before that tak nak kerja. So I mean that's the kind of things that I think you have to do. So of course in today's environment there's a lot more opportunities in terms of your online business and so on. Again, there are many opportunities. Just make sure that they are legitimate ones. Don't fall into scams and so on. Right? Again, people will be looking for your initiative beyond your technical competency, if I may. Now, maybe I can also address this issue about failures, right? Not everything that we strive for will work out for us. Even for me personally, I was able to actually pass level 1 and level 2 of ACCA without any problem. But for level 3, the final exams, I moved to London. And at that point in time, this was back in 1986, my seniors told me, you don't have to study hard because even if you do, you will not pass the first time, right? First attempt. So I took that advice. I enjoyed myself in London for the first 6 months. And as I entered the exam hall, I opened the exam booklet. I saw the questions. I cried because had I studied, I think I would have passed the first attempt. So because I did not study, I failed. Then I also failed the second time, notwithstanding I studied harder because the papers were actually a lot harder. And it took me 3 attempts before I passed. So my encouragement to you is that do your best, study hard, but sometimes, notwithstanding the efforts you put in, things don't work out and you may fail. But if you fail, do not give up. Please, pick up the pieces and work even harder, strive even harder to actually get a better result, if I may. And the same thing will apply in your work too. Now you ask me about whether there have been disappointments in my career throughout. Oh, there have been a few. If I can give you, the biggest disappointment I had was when I was asked to leave PNB early. So what happened was that we were doing very well at PNB between me and Dr. Rahman. But when there was a change in government, the person leading the Council for Eminent Persons did not like me. Okay, and that was unfortunate, notwithstanding all the facts and so on. So somehow he did not like me, and it was impossible for me to continue as the chairman of PMB if the powers that be do not have the trust in me. So I had no choice but to leave PMB honorably. But of course, we made sure that we left PMB in a good order. We made sure that the successor was in place, everything was actually smooth. So that was actually a temporary setback. So how did I deal with it? Well, at the end of the day, we all believe in the Almighty. We believe in Rizki. Do the right thing. I think, inshallah, you'll be okay. And so after that, that was actually in June. It gave me time to actually go around to Serengeti and all those places. And later, I was invited to join WWF as a trustee. Later, UKM actually offered me to chair the board of directors of UKM. And then after that, of course, then the opportunity came at Bursa Malaysia and so on. So not everything in your life will be smooth sailing. There'll be times that you'll be met with disappointments, but it's important for you to stay the course, believe in the rizki and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do the best that you can. I think, inshallah, you'll be okay.
All right, Tan Sri, thank you very much. Is that okay if we can take up one last question?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, one last question. Yes.
Assalamualaikum Tan Sri. My name is Faizatul Zuhra.
Faiza?
Faizatul Zuhra. Okay. My question to you is, what and who inspires you to be you today? I mean, along your journey.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Faizatul. Well, there are many people from near and from afar. Obviously, from near would be my parents. So my father Haji Omar and my mother Haji Halimah. My father Haji Omar used to work with the British military, the civil service side in Singapore. But when the British military withdrew from Singapore back in 1969, I believe, he was jobless, but he strived. He worked very hard as a laborer at the pencil factory, Stedtler, and so on. So my mom helped out by being a seamstress, jahit baju. Those from Johor will know baju Melayu Teluk Belanga. So that's actually my mother's expertise. So my parents strived hard in order to raise all 11 of us children. So life was tough, but alhamdulillah, we were able to actually sail through that. And obviously, therefore, they were my immediate inspiration. From a professional perspective, obviously I look up to the many accountants of the past. So there were people like Tan Sri Hanafiah Hussein. So one of the first Malay chartered accountants whom I had the benefit of serving under him when he was the chairman of Bank Bhutra. At the point I was with Bhutra Merchant Bankers, which was a subsidiary of Bank Bumi. Tan Sri Azman Hashim, again, these are the corporate leaders from afar. And then we have people whom I had the benefit of working very closely with in the corporate circle. These are people like Tan Sri Azan Hashim, who until recently was the chairman of IHH. He was my boss in 3 places, so I learned a lot from him. People like Tan Sri Azman Yahya, who's a very successful entrepreneur, but very low profile, yet successful. And I have the benefit of learning a lot from him as well. And people like Tan Sri Nur Muhammad Yaakob. Now, Tan Sri Nur Muhammad Yaakob is someone I hugely admire for his resolve, and he has gone through a lot. So he was obviously challenged when he was in Banegara in terms of the forex losses and so on. But he came back by supporting Tun Mahathir, advising him in terms of how Malaysia should get out of the Asian financial crisis by implementing financial controls and how to deal with currencies being manipulated and so on. And that gave Tun Mahathir the courage to implement those important policies, but they were risky. But because they were actually executed well, Alhamdulillah, Malaysia was able to get out of the Asian financial crisis very fast. So after that, he was given the mandate to transform government-linked companies, and he provided the air cover for many of us as CEOs and enabling us to do our job well. So he will deal with all the political issues so that we CEOs can focus on running our companies well. So again, I learned a lot from him. He's very clinical in his diagnosis and very focused on execution. And he does engage people, sought views from various parties before coming up with a solution. So I learned a lot from him too. And of course, there are also the national leaders, the prime ministers, various leaders in different times. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. So I tend to copy or emulate the good ones, the good traits, and so the negative ones. So obviously we drop it and so on. So for example, so I hope I've answered the question. So those are the various types of people that inspired me, and I'm sure from your perspective too, don't just have one role model. Look at various people, different stages in our life. There could be some people who inspire us from a personal perspective, some from a professional perspective, and don't be afraid to copy the good ones, if I may. But whatever you do, preserve your integrity, enhance your competence, and remain being humble person, embrace humility. I think inshallah you'll be successful in life. Thank you. So with that, well, thank you everyone. So if I may, I only have one request before I go. Now, make no mistake that Malaysia as a country, we are not perfect. There are many areas where we need to improve. Among them, corruption. We need to continue to fight corruption, combat corruption, and make sure that people are accountable. But having said that, I do find that we Malaysians, sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. We tend to look at the glass as being half empty as opposed to be half full. We tend to look at the grass as being green on the other side or not on our side. We tend to focus on things that divide us as opposed to things that unite us. So my request to all of you is that notwithstanding all our challenges and our shortcomings, Malaysia is still not bad compared to many of the other countries. So we still have peaceful, we have experienced change in government after 60 years very peacefully. There's no country in the world that's gone through that kind of peaceful transition, right? Meaning that's majority of our people, majority of democracy. And that's something which we need to celebrate, if I may. So my request to you would be to do what you can within your circle of influence. Don't just wait for other people, but in things that you do, in your family, in your place, in your city, do good. Do what you can, be constructive, and always anchor on Rukun Negara. Not just the 5 principles that we have on the left here, but I think more importantly to me is the objectives. And objectives, with all these big words, the essence is about doing what we can for a Malaysia which is prosperous, which is inclusive when one is left behind, and which is sustainable for the longer term. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I wish you all the best. But remember, go for first class. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar. We would appreciate Yang Berbahagia to remain on stage for the next agenda. And to join Yang Berbahagia on stage, please welcome Yang Berbahagia Professor Insinyur Dr. Azmi bin Hassan, the Deputy President of IIIP University Kuala Lumpur. As a token of appreciation, we would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Insinyur Dr. Azmi to present a souvenir to our guest of honor, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar. Thank you very much. Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the session, and once again, on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank our guest of honor, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Wahid bin Omar, the former minister and past chairman of Bursa Malaysia, for taking your time to be with us here today. We also would like to convey our appreciation to distinguished guests and all presents for sparing us your precious time. Before we end, we would like to invite Yang Berbahagia for a group photo with all our esteemed guests, academicians and students. We would appreciate Yang Berbahagia and distinguished guests to remain seated. And for the students at the back, you may come to the front and join for the photo session. Once again, students at the back, you may come to the front to join the photo